All right, today we're going to be able to find missing angles using law of cosine. So yesterday we worked on finding missing sides. We use the same formulas, but we're looking for angles. So remember, with trig, just like with our SOHCAHTOA, just like with law of sines, anytime you're finding a missing angle, your last step is to use those inverse trig functions. So just a reminder, looking at those law of cosines, we got the three formulas. Remember, whether you're trying to find little a, b, c, or big A, big B, big C, that determines which of the three formulas you are going to use. So if you're trying to find one of the A's, you're going to use that first formula. If you're trying to find one of the B's, use the second formula. And if you're trying to find one of the C's, use the third formula. So let's look at an example. Number 2 on your worksheet. So we're trying to find the measure of angle C. So first step, same as finding missing sides, just label your sides based on the angles they are opposite from. So opposite from angle A, side A, opposite from angle B, side B, opposite from angle C, side C. So since we're trying to solve for angle C, we're going to use the third formula. So that's the one that starts with little c. So the difference here in the setup is yesterday we didn't have little c, today we do. So we're going to start with a number instead of a variable. So 13 squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times the cosine of big C. So this time is the angle we don't know. So yesterday, once we set it up, we could basically just plug everything into the calculator and be done. Today, it's a little more difficult, so we need to go through that a little slower. So first thing you want to do is we're trying to get this big C over here by itself. So what we're going to do first is just kind of simplify some of our values throughout this equation. So first thing we can do is 13 squared is 169, 12 squared is 144, 9 squared is 81, minus, we can multiply 2 times 12 times 9. That comes out to 216 cosine of C. Next step, we can combine our like terms. So that's all we're going to do here. I'm just going to slide over to the left side here. So we've got 169 equals 225 minus 216 times the cosine of C. The biggest mistake in finding missing angles is this next step. What a lot of students will do is they see 225 minus 216 and they subtract that and call it 9 cosine of C. But these two terms, the 225 and the 216 cosine of C, are not like terms, so they can't be combined like that. One's a constant, one has a variable with it. So instead of subtracting those, what we're going to look to do is combine the constants on the left side and the right side. So we're just going to subtract 225 instead from each side. That cancels out. So 169 minus 225 leaves us with negative 56 equals negative 216 times the cosine of C. To undo that multiplication, we're going to divide by negative 216. And when we divide a negative by a negative, it turns positive, so we can get rid of those negative signs. So we've got 56 over 216 equals the cosine of C. Our last step to get rid of cosine is just take that inverse cosine of each side. So inverse cosine, inverse cosine. The inverse cancels out our regular cosine. We're just left with our answer. Once you plug it into the calculator, inverse cos of 56 over 216. And round to the nearest tenth, C comes out to 75 degrees. So again, that biggest misconception, biggest mistake always comes right in this step. Try to remember not to subtract those two numbers, not like terms. Biggest mistake I see with law of cosines. So homework is that second worksheet. You did the odds yesterday, evens today. Email me, Mr. Shaw or Miss Matos, with questions. You've got a quiz coming up on law of cosines on Thursday. That'll be on Google Forms again. Remember, it can only help your grade. Only a few of you tried it out last week, so make sure you're trying that out this coming week.